My father was an abusive, controlling, angry man who took so much from me, my siblings, and my mom. Stuff that took me years and years to get past.
My father struggled with substance abuse. I didn't realize it when I was a kid. It didn't really dawn on me until I got much older. When I was 5 years old, there was a time I went into the living room and I spotted my dad on the floor. As a 5-year-old, I thought he was sleeping, so I yelled to my mother. She comes into the living room, and then she instantly knew he wasn't sleeping. The paramedics were called, but by that time it was too late. He was dead.
Meals were spent sitting down, obeying what he wanted us to do. If it didn't go his way, he made sure that all the food would end up on the floor or all in front of him, and we sat and watched him eat. He was a big, angry man that could control us with his voice, with his money, with his physical stature, with everything.
A few years later, after my dad died, my mom started dating someone else, and that's when the abuse happened. That's when he used to smack her around and hit her.
I know that there were times that Mom tried to get away or tried to escape, and he ripped the phone out of the wall and disabled the car. We lived on a farm in the Midwest, and how do you leave that? We're talking, this was back in the mid-'70s, and there was no domestic violence center. There was no place for us to go.
One of the toughest memories I have is when my mother, I remember I was about 9 years old, and it was a night during nighttime, and my mother was fighting with her new boyfriend. And I remember, him hitting her, and then he had a weapon in his back. When I saw that, I screamed out, "Get off of my mom!" And when I did that, he came after me, trying to throw me out of the window. The only thing I remember is police showing up and my mother going into the hospital. She was in a coma.
One particular time that my father was raising Cain, he was angry and he was throwing things, and I happened to come around the corner and something he was throwing hit me. And it hit me right in the thigh, and so I went to school, and the next day I played sports, so I had a huge bruise on my thigh, a place that you usually don't get bruises, and apparently my coach or someone must have called in an abuse report, because I came home that evening, or else it was the next day, and there was a sheriff and a social worker there at the house wanting to talk to me.
I lived with my sister's boyfriend's family during that time, and I remember my mom just being in the hospital. And then one day I was with other kids, and we were watching a movie, and I get a call from my mother. I hadn't talked to her in a while, and she talked to me and said she was gonna be okay, and then that she was gonna come home. So of course I was super excited. The next thing I knew, she wasn't coming home. She actually died in the hospital from her injuries from that man.
So the social worker took me outside, and we sat down at a picnic table that we had in our front yard, and I sat down and she sat across from me, and I really was so uncomfortable. I didn't want to talk to her. I didn't know what was going to happen. I didn't know, even though I was so upset and wanted things to change in my family, if they took my father away, how were we going to live? How were we going to pay the bills? He was a farmer, he milked cows, he made our lives. But I looked up, sitting at that table, I looked up, and what did I see in the window staring out at me was my father. The social worker had her back to the house, and all I could see was my father staring at me thinking, oh my goodness, I can't say a word to you, ma'am. I cannot talk to you. He's either gonna hurt me or he's gonna hurt my mom if I tell you one single word. I sat there quietly. I never opened my mouth. I'm sure she thought I was just defiant, didn't want to cooperate. I never saw her again. They never came back. So how did I make it through? I truly believe that kids have to have something to look up to. They have to have something to hold on to give them hope. They have to have a hero. And I did. I had a couple heroes. They were my coaches. They were my teachers. They were always there for me. They taught me discipline. They taught me respect. They taught me trust, and that I was worth it. They gave me self-esteem. They gave me self-worth. I wouldn't have made it through high school without what I learned in sports, without my coach, and without my teammates.
I always knew I wanted to help people. After grad school, I was a case manager and therapist with children in foster care. During this time, I experienced some horrific things. It wasn't until then I realized how blessed I was to have people around me to support me. And I realized these kids didn't have anyone, and I needed to be that person for them.
When I graduated high school and had the opportunity to go to college, I knew what I wanted to do. I was going to be a social worker. I knew that day sitting at that picnic table, I needed to be a social worker. I needed to change the lives of kids like me.
Today, I co-own a private practice in downtown St. Pete, and I also serve on the board at CASA. My mother was a victim, and she didn't make it. At CASA, we get to help survivors and to be there for kids like me.
Every day, moms, dads, and kids walk through our front door looking for that hero to help them through the biggest crisis that they could be going through in their lives. We need to be their safety, their security, and be their hero.
For far too long, children have been the silent and invisible victims of domestic violence. But at CASA, we understand the lifelong implications of growing up in a domestic violence home. And so we're being very intentional about the programs that we bring to our children. Many people don't realize that in our shelter, we see 120 people every single day, half of whom are children. And so the system of care that we're creating helps children and families heal and move forward with their lives. We've forged creative partnerships with the police, Juvenile Welfare Board, mental health services, schools, to make sure that children are receiving services that help them grow and move forward in a happy, healthy, productive life.
Domestic violence doesn't discriminate. It doesn't matter where you come from, who you are, or how much money you make. Survivors are everywhere. In order to fix this problem, we have to start here in our community.
CASA stands for Community Action Stops Abuse. And we need your help. We need you to reach out, to volunteer, to donate, do whatever you can to help our most vulnerable victims find their voice.